When I say talking to strangers, what is your first reaction? Do you wince at the idea of having to try to engage with someone you know nothing about, or do you light up at the idea of trying to connect with someone new? The reality is, despite your feelings when it comes to talking to strangers, we can all benefit from it. Let's get into it. Based on a survey I conducted, we can assume the majority of you would feel unfavorable to the idea of talking with a stranger. But, based on the same survey's results, we can assume the vast majority of you would say you think people would benefit from talking to strangers. Why is that? According to the survey participants, when followed up with the question, why or why not, people mostly agreed we benefit from strangers because we learn from them. We learn perspective, kindness, humanity, and information just to start. Others said comments about us benefiting from socializing with each other on a pure social level. If we can acknowledge these possibilities of communicating, why do we still avoid it? Why do we shy away from something that we acknowledge to be beneficial to us? According to Jillian Sandstrom and Erica Boothby in their article, Why Do People Avoid Talking to Strangers? We do not like talking to strangers because, quote, we found that people worry more about their partner not enjoying the conversation than they do not enjoying the conversation themselves, unquote. I, like many of us, can relate to the feeling of awkwardness that comes from trying to hold or start an engaging conversation, even though you're enjoying it. Specifically, I reminisce on a plane ride I took as a 16-year-old who accidentally befriended a woman in her maybe 60s. We initially started talking about her jewelry that had been stolen during security. They kept giving her freebies because of this, and she was trying to share them with me. During our 6-hour flight, this turned into so much more than just trying to share airplane peanuts. I learned about her internship at an art gallery in Italy when she was in her 20s. She shared that her oldest daughter was a scientist who always looked up to Jane Goodall and was moving to Seattle to work. She confided they grew up on the East Coast and she had never been to the West Coast and was scared of her daughter being so far away. In the midst of this, she asked me so many questions about myself, too. After all of that and a long 6-hour flight, the older woman patted my shoulder, gave me a pep talk, and wished me luck in life as we got off the plane. She told me she saw greatness in me and she knew I was going to accomplish whatever I wanted in life. I never even learned her name after all that. Despite not knowing her name, I think of her often. This stranger made a lifelong impact on me. She is a core memory, you could say. Think back. Can you think of a similar memory? How did you feel? What was the outcome of that conversation? I asked the participants of my survey the same question. Have you ever met a stranger that made an impact on you? These are the results. 50% of the participants said yes, 10% saying many people have, and the remaining 40% said no. I asked the 60% of people about the strangers that had made an impact on them. Their stories were impactful. I will share a few of them with you. One person said, I met a random lady who locked all of her stuff inside the store she worked at, and I was doing a delivery next door. She asked for a ride home, and we've been friends since. She's in her mid-50s and lives by herself, but is so sweet and funny and kind, and she now calls me her adopted niece. I met her in July of last year and ended up going to her family's Thanksgiving. Another person shared, this past summer, I met a stranger at a concert that I went to by myself, which is a huge step for me. She showed me kindness and laughter, which made my situation 10 times better. The concert was hella fun, and we still talk today and share all of the memes. We plan on going back to the same concert together when the group is back in town. These are just two of many responses. So many impactful stories and connections. This is what we miss out on when we avoid talking to strangers. Joe Keohane, the author of The Power of Strangers, in his Atlantic article, The Surprising Benefit of Talking to Strangers, discusses that despite our fears, personality traits, upbringings, and other factors that could deter us from communicating with strangers, studies have proven time and time again that we in fact all benefit from the conversation. He shares, quote, "Again and again, studies have shown that talking with strangers can make us happier, more connected to our communities, mentally sharper, healthier, less lonely, and more trustful and optimistic." Unquote. He also states, "The participants who talked with their barista reported feeling a stronger sense of community and improved mood, as well as greater satisfaction with the overall coffee buying experience." Unquote. They later discussed that by avoiding conversation, we miss out on potential connections, lessons, and a general boost in happiness. The science is undeniable. Talking to strangers has a positive impact on all of us. Strangers are a tool in our happiness, or tool to our happiness, that the majority of us have been failing to utilize. As we discussed earlier, our fears hold us back from taking advantage of our fellow strangers' conversations. So what do you do if you want to overcome that fear? Gillian Sandstrom wanted to find the answer to that very question. She created a study using an app called Goose Chase to start a scavenger hunt. This scavenger hunt required you to talk to strangers to help you cross off the task on your list. For example, talk to someone who is carrying a lot of things, or talk to someone who is wearing a patterned tie. Gillian found that with the repetition of starting conversations with strangers, the participants became less fearful of the next conversation. Long story short, to get over your fear of talking to strangers, you just have to dive in. So next time you're out, give it a go. Try paying someone a compliment. Introduce yourself. Mention the weather. Share a fun fact. The options are endless, and how you choose to start a conversation is up to you. Hopefully now going into an interaction, you will feel more confident knowing that you are more than likely both enjoying and more importantly benefiting from the conversation. So let's see, who will you connect with next?